and welcome back to the another episode of Overshadowed with Lennon and Collin. The second, hopefully, episode where our microphone works, because sadly, last time we could not upload that version. So I think, in news about this, I think that we're gonna start uploading this on either Sundays or Mondays, and then either Wednesdays or Thursdays. So 2 days of the week, so that we're not talking about stuff so much later than it happens. But I think Colin's gonna start with our first topic.
So first of all, our first topic is the whole Washington Post report that just came out that detailed to the extent that President Biden was shielded by all of his aides and advisors. Like he wasn't even in direct contact with his polling experts during the campaign. He was told that he was winning, and this was largely, most of the American public knew this, but until this report, which took a long time to come out, it was unclear what was really happening with him.
Yeah, so, I mean, that kind of explains how Biden was still in the race, because, when the Pod Save Bros kind of revealed that Biden's internal polling expected him to expected Trump to win up to 400 electoral college votes. I kind of read that, and I was kind of thinking, like, there's no way that this could be real if Biden actually knew this. Biden was, like, obviously a very selfish person, and that's one of the reasons why he did stay in that race. So this does kind of explain more. I was kind of on the fence. I was like, was Biden this delusional to think that he could actually win, or was his brain just so fried that he had no idea how much he was losing by? So apparently it was the latter. But this is just like, I feel like everybody kind of knew this. One of the other reasons why he obviously stayed in the race was because his family was kind of pressuring him too, because of the amount of power that his family had, and so him dropping out would just be an automatic kick out of office for Joe Biden. So Joe Biden cease being the president of the United States. So what are your thoughts on this? Did you expect that?
I mean, I think a lot of people kind of knew that, Biden wasn't the competent person, and it was especially revealed during the presidential debate that he had with Trump. That was really when the curtain was pulled back. So he only had, I believe it was 9 cabinet meetings during his entire term, which is just completely unheard of. Most presidents have way more than that. And a lot of the members of Congress had severely limited contact with the president. They weren't allowed to see him that much and really see how bad things were. But yeah, I think just like when he had the debate with Trump, that's when the curtain was pulled back, and pretty much everyone saw what train wreck it was.
And I mean, this guy was talking about how Trump was Hitler and how the Republican Party is going to destroy the country for so long. And like, look, I'm not a conservative. Do I think that Trump is Hitler? No. Do I think that he will be a good president, or do I think that he was a good president? No. But I don't think he's Hitler. And I also want to, like, if he seriously thought this is another thing, like, that, like, he basically let Trump win because he didn't withdraw from the race so soon, and he didn't let Kamala Harris run a legitimate campaign. What was her campaign, like 93 days or something long? It was absurd. I maybe like 113 or some number in the ballpark of that. But it just shows, like, Biden has been trying, I think, for a really long time to try and do something to preserve his legacy, and so that he doesn't just go down as a president that's, like, just completely forgotten or regarded, like how Richard Nixon, I don't know much about his term. What I do know about Richard Nixon is obviously Watergate. Yeah. So he didn't want his legacy to go down as just something like that. But it will go down as that. I mean, I saw him. He's trying to negotiate with some of the Republicans in the House to try and not overturn the Chips and Jobs Act. And so, I think that was a good bill, but Biden will 100% be remembered, in my opinion, for like two things. I think it will 100% be remembered for the Gaza genocide, but I think the second he'll just be remembered for how old he was and his major role in preventing Kamala Harris or any other Democratic politician from really winning, like not having a legitimate primary, and like not letting one, Kamala Harris win, but two, any other Democrat win. Like there are so many, like Josh Shapiro, I mean Gretchen Whitmer, there are so many Democratic politicians that could have had such a better shot going into this election than Kamala Harris or especially Biden. So I think that all of his attempts to maintain his legacy will honestly go down in vain because of this, and he will be remembered as just the old guy that prevented the Democrats from winning in 2024. So do you have any other thoughts about that?
I mean, not really. I think it's just crazy. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know to this extent, like how bad, like how incompetent he was. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, when I heard the news about the whole doctor coming into the White House and Karine Jean-Pierre just denying it, and then it actually just ended up being completely true, I kind of knew, like, this guy's brain is completely cooked. One of the last things I want to say about that, I remember seeing the other day, Biden was walking out of a bookstore, I think with his niece or something, niece or somebody else in his family, and there was a photo of him carrying a book called The 100 Years War on Palestine. So I was kind of thinking about that, and his daughter or niece or whoever was with him was, I think he probably bought it for her, or maybe it was for himself if he can even, like, comprehend stuff at this point. And at first I thought, like, wow, maybe this guy's, like, actually educating himself about what's going on. And then I remembered, like, oh, wait, this guy has no brain capacity, which is just insane for the president. So that's kind of the last thing that I think about that. So our next topic is the insane New Jersey UFO situation, which, like, maybe it's UFOs, maybe it's drones, maybe it's some special military craft that the U.S. government has created. But, like, this has been one of the most insane situations that I think I've ever been able to really experience as a sentient person that isn't, like, 4 years old. But, like, this is just, like, the bounds of insanity that this has reached is crazy. Obviously, the government has issued statements just being like, oh, this is nothing to worry about. Biden said they pose no danger on the 18th when he issued a statement, and he said there's nothing nefarious apparently, but they're still checking it all out. And the military has obviously just been everywhere going at, there's no problems here, there's no issue. And I think obviously it isn't. I mean, like, honestly, I 100% believe that it's some mixture of drones and aliens. Like, it's if it was some military craft, then they would have shot it down. And the lack of information given to the public is just a surefire sign that the government has no idea. So I think it must be UFOs at that point. What do you think it is?
Yeah, I think the thing about this is that it could be hobbyist drones and stuff like that, but if it is, like,
it wouldn't be, like, disappearing in the middle of the night.
Yeah, if it is, like, why are we letting, no matter if it's Chinese intelligence drones, hobbyist drones, who knows, but why are we letting them fly around just, like, over military bases and stuff like that? It's kind of giving me flashbacks to the whole surveillance balloon incident. Like, why isn't the government just shooting these things down if they're over?
Oh my gosh, I remember that story. That was so insane. The surveillance drone that was in the air for like 3 days until it was shot down.
Flying,
So, like, because of the lack of information actually being provided by the government, obviously, people have just been going crazy with conspiracy theories, like, me like saying that it's UFOs. I mean, I wouldn't be able to say that if the government was actually telling us what was happening. And I mean, there's basically two scenarios, like two reasons why the government wouldn't be telling us. It's either that the government has no idea, or that the government had like a big screw up. Like, what else could it possibly be besides that? I mean, I can't think of any other reason besides that the government is just concealing everything. I mean, they do kind of conceal those things for no reason sometimes, but I feel like, at least right now, Biden would probably issue some statement saying something actually significant, but it's just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember who I heard talk about this, but like some former military guy, and he was talking about like some of these are probably drones. Like some of these definitely are. There was some like, was it the governor or something that said like, oh, I can see these drones there, and he posted a picture of it, and it was just a constellation, and then who. Oh, I can't remember these people, but there's some other congressman that said it's 100% an Iranian carrier off the coast in the Atlantic Ocean, which is just insane, like warmongering by the GOP, but like
and then the problem's kind of like multiplying, because then you have these people, the citizens launching their own drones to try to see what they are,
and then they just disappear.
And then or then other people see those and think it's something else, so then it's kind of just like multiplying way farther than it should have gone. But
I mean, like, everybody's kind of forgotten about this. Like, have we really gotten an answer? Like, no. We are like if this starts like happening all over the US, this is gonna be insane. It was a big story anyway, of course it was, but because we have like no idea what's happening, all these random lights in the air. But if this happens over like California and like North Dakota or whatever, this is going to become a huge problem, and the military and the government's silence on it is going to end up being the worst possible response that they could have given. So that's kind of the end of my thoughts about that. But this is just like, it's absurd how this is still happening. So our next topic is Pelosi falling and having a hip replacement surgery. So 5 days ago, she did return to Washington after her hip replacement surgery, and her fall was more than a week ago, but apparently it was pretty bad. And we're going to talk about this later, but this also comes as Gary Connolly has taken the House Oversight Committee chair position from, like, taking it away. AOC didn't have it, but taking her chances away from having it from AOC. So our government, I mean, I saw like a chart the other day that like libs at TikTok posted on Twitter where they're like, look at all the 35% of the people in our government are over 75. Like, and our entire government is coming to be run by people that have no idea what they're doing because they're so old. And I mean, also like, so many Republicans are like, oh my gosh, the Nancy Pelosi falling shows her incompetence, how old she is. And I mean, like, look, Biden's old, he shouldn't be in government, but also, like, Donald Trump's 78. And there have been a lot of signs that he is not cognitively there, a lot of the time. So there's a lot to say about that. I mean, like, do you kind of agree with me that, do you think that there should be, like, an age limit for any of these positions? Executive, judicial?
I mean, I think as long as your mental ability, and I'm not sure how you would measure this, but your mental ability, but also the people that we're electing for government should be representative of the population. They should represent Americans. So when you do have like 35% or whatever that are over 75, that's not truly representing the American population. But yeah, I would just say, and again, I don't know how you do this, but if you're mentally competent and you're shown to be able to handle the job you're in, I don't think there should be an age limit. But yeah, there comes a certain point where the human body just physically, no matter how smart you are, your body just falls
Yeah.
apart and you do things like that and fall.
I mean, if you have an age limit, like Bernie Sanders is 100% there. Like, you
Yeah,
can probably
yeah.
agree with me on that, right? He is 100% cognitively fine. He's like a bullet. I mean, that guy could 100% be president. Like, I would vote for that guy to be president based on age, and he's older than I want to see how old is Bernie Sanders. I think he's like 83, right? He's 83, and so he's older than Trump and Biden, and he's better cognitively than both of them. So, I kind of that's kind of the dilemma that I thought about too when I talk about this. Like, yeah, there should be age limits, but then there's Bernie Sanders, and then you can think about the cognitive test. But what is the cognitive test? How do you measure that? Can we use like IQ? Because IQ sucks anyway. Like, IQ isn't even accurate of intelligence. But I mean, this story about Nancy Pelosi. I mean, how long has Nancy Pelosi really like held on to power? She's probably been there like 30, 40 years.
Yeah,
I mean, there is really nobody else in the Democratic Party with the amount of fundraising power that Nancy Pelosi has, but like there should be. The American people honestly deserve the ability to be like you were saying. Like, I agree with that. They deserve the ability to be represented by people that are their age. And so I remember, like, wasn't it in like the midterms, the last midterms, that some guy that's like 25 got elected to Congress? I was like, maybe that's a little bit too young because maybe you don't have experience, but like, honestly, that's better than 75. That's better than 81 or 78, Trump and Biden. And I mean, there is one last thing that I kind of want to say about this. The Republicans have really gone crazy on this story on Twitter, especially with libs at TikTok. I was talking about this a couple minutes ago, but I have no idea how libs at TikTok can go and post this chart. Look how much of our government is run by people that are over 75, 80 years old. And then you just campaign for the guy that's like 78. Biden is too old for office, and Donald Trump is also way too old for office. I mean, at the end of Trump's term, I mean, in 2020 we were talking about Biden, and the whole Sleepy Joe, but Joe Biden was way more cognitively competent in 2020 than he is now. He was able to go up on the debate stage against Donald Trump and actually put up a pretty decent fight. And in 4 years, he has completely deteriorated. So it's going to be interesting to see how Donald Trump holds up. He talks all this game about how bold Biden is, and talked about that at the RNC, and yeah, you're 78 when he's older than Biden at the end of his term than he is right now. Like, let's see.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Trump's legacy is defined by that, too. So, our next story is this ABC Trump settlement. So, this is honestly insane. ABC has settled for $15 million in a defamation case against President-elect Donald Trump. So, I think this was about Monica Lewinsky, and it was about how, like, the rape charges, and apparently he said, like, one thing that was slightly not accurate about him, and I mean, the thing, like, it's one thing to pay $15 million, but when you're ABC, how much does that really matter? How much did Fox News pay for that defamation case? Probably a lot more. But the thing is, like, if you're a news organization, you don't just want to admit to defamation. So there must have been something in George Stephanopoulos' emails that was so absurdly compromising that they had to sacrifice millions of dollars and such a huge hit to their reputation for it. And it's just like how can you, as a news organization, do that if you don't have something to hide? So like what do you think about that? Like, why do you think they settled that for so much?
Yeah, that's true. I do agree. There's probably something more to the story that, like you were saying, that they just don't. Because, you're right. It's not worth, like how you were saying before, $15 million is not that much to ABC News, but just the hit to their reputation for now all of America, that's just a huge hit to their reputation to have to settle in a defamation case. So yeah, it's just insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Fox News had that, and it was like it was huge when Fox News and they had to fire Tucker Carlson, for it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is necessarily of the same magnitude as that, but it's certainly pretty crazy. And I mean, there is an aspect of it. It could just be that they don't want to get on Trump's like quote unquote bad side, so that they don't like get sued into oblivion or whatever, and like have to deal with more of the problems because Trump goes after them with the DOJ and Kash Patel gets mad at him and stuff. But I mean, like Bill Maher was talking about that, saying like I might leave because Trump might go after me, and like I mean, at a certain point, I'm like, does Trump really care about like Bill Maher that much?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's my official prediction. Bill Maher will not be in prison by the end of Donald Trump's term, even if he keeps criticizing him. Even though I don't think the conservatives right now believe in free speech that much. But would you disagree with that? Would you agree with that?
Let's see. I probably don't know enough about the topic to have like a
Conservatives and free speech.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been following it that much, but yeah.
Okay. So our next topic, I was really mad about this, but like I was talking about earlier, Gary Connolly is now set to lead the House Oversight Committee, and he is literally right now he is dying of cancer. And this is after Nancy Pelosi basically killed all of AOC's chances of taking the position, and he won the vote with 131 votes, and with AOC receiving 84. So another topic about people that are literally dying in our government. Can you search up how old Gary Connolly is right now? Like, AOC is like, there are some things like who was it, like Daniel Penny, like she was like, no, I talked about this earlier. I didn't actually see the clip of her saying it. It could have been taken out of context, but I think she said something akin to like, now our streets are more unsafe. And I mean, sometimes ALC will fumble the ball and say some things that are bad, but like overall, I think that I have like he's 74 years old, so that's crazy. I have a pretty I don't think the AOC is the worst. I kind of like AOC like a little bit. I read Ryan Grimm's book about the squad, and it was really interesting. But like this is just like, it's really sad. I mean, AOC is one of the youngest voices in Congress, and her leading this committee, while she does say some things that I personally don't agree with and I think are kind of dumb, would probably be a break from the norm. And I mean, like, honestly, what do you think about that? Do you like AOC? I couldn't expect you to like AOC that much, but
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think this just kind of returns to our previous point about like he's 74. There's people that are older than him, but it's just totally person by person. That it kind of does return to our whole age in Congress thing.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
if it was Bernie Sanders, I would.
Yeah,
he's sharp as a tack, man.
Yeah, but then you have this guy 74, like literally dying. So it's like it really, it's tough. Yeah.
So I want to see what cancer does. What does this guy have? What cancer does? I think he has I think that he has like pancreatic cancer. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I couldn't really find anything, but Gary Connolly, esophageal cancer. And so, like, I'm pretty sure that esophageal cancer is, like, a really, really low rate of survival. So, like, these guys are, like, with Dianne Feinstein, I mean, that's effectively, like, this is the same situation. Dianne Feinstein had literally no idea where she was at the end of her term. And her family basically peddled her up there so that she could stay in power. And she died in office, which is just crazy. Like, how is this still going on? And it just shows like these guys are so greedy to hang on to power, and they sacrifice their own legacy at a certain point for it, and it's like kind of sad if you're Joe Biden and you're in the Senate for however like 30 years or something, or you're Dianne Feinstein or you're Gary Connolly, or you're Nancy Pelosi, would you really want your legacy to just be defined by how old you are and some other issue that you were really bad on? Mm-hmm. So it's really sad. I would have really liked really would have liked AOC to be promoted to that role. And so our next topic is arguably the most important. Maybe the UFO thing in New Jersey could compete, but the government shutdown and Bernie Sanders warning about oligarchy. So Elon Musk's new position as effectively the president of the United States, in my opinion, is extremely alarming, and Bernie Sanders discussed this 2 days ago when he posted a video on his YouTube channel where he primarily targeted Musk. So Elon Musk has effectively said that he will primary anybody that likes laws he doesn't like and that doesn't like laws that he likes. This is one of the most outrageous things in the entire country, I think, happening right now. The fact that Elon Musk has effectively reverse bribing people and forcing them to vote a certain way is one of the most outrageous things in the entire world. It's just disgraceful how this is happening. I cannot even put into words how infuriated I am that Elon Musk is just Elon Musk is a moron. He's an idiot and he has no idea what he's doing. He should not be put into the position of just controlling our entire government and being able to force people into voting for things that they don't like. I mean, you could say AIPAC does that, and they certainly do. Most of the House is paid off by AIPAC. I think it's most senators are paid off by AIPAC too. So could be seen as the same thing, but right now it's different because it's just one person with this extreme amount of power, and I don't even know how to express how. What do you think about Elon Musk?
I mean, I think it's interesting. It does tell us that while he and Trump have a ton of power, it's not unlimited. They can't push massive bills across, but they can certainly take them down, like how the whole thing that they were going to do to stop the government from shutting down that whole bill. Then Elon Musk with the farming subsidies and all that. Yeah. Elon Musk said he didn't like it, so then they took it down. And then I believe they proposed another one, and it was something like 30 or 20
without the
something.
child cancer research fund.
It was like 30 or 20 something Republican budget hawks. The bill was basically to remove the government debt ceiling for a while, I believe. And that one didn't pass. So it does show that, while it's an insane amount of power, it's not unlimited. So they can't just push whatever laws they want.
I mean, if you have a 53-47 majority in the Senate, and you have a guy that's worth, $300 billion, which I don't think he should even be able to accumulate that much wealth in the first place. But, you do have a lot of power. If Donald Trump wants a bill proposed, and he does have a 53-47 majority in the Senate, and he has a 2-seat majority in the House.
Yeah,
to say that, and you threaten all of the Republicans, listen, I'm going to just primary you out of your existence if you oppose this bill. And you, even some Democrats, he's talking about, primarying some Democrats. He gets 2 Democrats. I'm going to primary you out of existence. Then you have huge issue. There needs to be a lot more lobbying bills.
Yeah,
you need to get rid of.
Yeah, I think so, but a lot of those are empty threats. He did. Trump threatened to do that with the 30-something Republicans that voted against the bill. Then that turns out it didn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's certainly way too much power, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, with the shutdown, I mean, this guy basically almost shut down the government, effectively. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah.
This guy almost shut down the government because of his stubbornness and because of the power that he's now holding on to. and he also like obviously owns Twitter, which just sucks now. I might do a monologue about how garbage Twitter is at this point, but yeah, I mean, I don't even. This is just insanely sad. It's as sad and infuriating for me. One of the things I definitely don't like. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to basically call Trump Vice President Trump in order to set off his ego to get Elon Musk out of the equation. If they think Elon Musk is causing problems and hurting Trump's reputation, and I mean, hopefully that works. Elon Musk is just an absolute moron, and I don't think that he should be the. I don't think that the American people who are mad about inflation and who are mad about Joe Biden's policy in Ukraine and wanted to defund Ukraine wanted Elon Musk to be the president. And I don't think they voted for that, and I don't think that he should have that much power, and I also don't think that you should be able to have that much wealth in the first place. So, yeah.
My monologue is gun control laws, the cure that spreads disease. Okay, so imagine a world where law-abiding citizens are left defenseless while criminals continue to arm themselves with ease. This is the grim reality that stringent gun control laws create, stripping individuals of their fundamental right to self-defense and leaving society more vulnerable than ever. While some may argue that if we had stricter gun control laws, the country would be a safer place, it has been proven that gun control laws simply just don't work and give too much power to the government. First of all, I want to talk about how ineffective gun control laws really are. Many Americans support banning larger magazines. In theory, this makes sense, as criminals will not be able to shoot hundreds of bullets all at once. However, in reality, this doesn't add up. According to David Lampo, publications director of the Cato Institute, there is no correlation between waiting periods and murder or robbery rates. This means that banning high-capacity magazines will not necessarily deter crime because even small gun magazines can be changed in seconds. Now, let's look at a real-world example of what happens when you have strict gun control laws. Mexico. Mexico has some of the strictest gun control laws in the world. In 2012, Mexico had 11,309 gun murders, which is 9.97 gun homicides per 100,000 people, compared to the United States, which had 9,146 gun homicides, or 2.97 per 100,000 people. The main reason gun control doesn't work is because laws will not prevent criminals from obtaining guns or breaking laws. As the saying goes, if guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. Gun laws do not deter crime, gun ownership does. 97.8% of mass shootings occur in gun-free zones. This is because criminals commit crimes where they know they won't have resistance. Think about it. If you were a criminal, would you rather go and commit a crime at place A, where no one has the power to stop you, or place B, where someone could have a gun and kill you? It's a no-brainer. Place A. According to John Stossel, criminals don't obey the law. Without the fear of retaliation from victims who might be packing heat, criminals in possession of these illegal weapons now have a much easier job. Now, I want to address people's concerns about assault weapons. It's ontological that these so-called weapons of war should not be in the hands of civilians. In reality, gun control laws that try to ban assault weapons infringe upon owning guns for hunting and sport. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, so-called assault weapons are more often than not less powerful than other hunting rifles. The term assault weapon was conjured up by anti-gun legislatures to scare voters into thinking these firearms are something straight out of a horror movie. The Colt AR-15 and Springfield M1A, both labeled assault weapons, are the rifles most used for marksmanship competitions in the United States, and their cartridges are standing hunting calibers, useful for game up to and including deer. This shows that while the term assault weapon sounds scary, they are almost exclusively used for hunting and marksmanship competitions. On top of this, gun control laws give way too much power to the government. People hear this and think it's a conspiracy theory, and to be honest, I don't blame them. The liberal media has portrayed people who think this way as conspiracy theorists who think the government is out to get them. But these people understand what history has been trying to tell us for years. It starts with the guns and it ends with the freedoms. Countless times in history, government started out by taking civilian guns under the pretense of safety, and then proceeded to commit atrocities beyond belief. Let's look at some examples. In the Soviet Union, after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, the Soviet government implemented strict gun control laws. In 1918, the Council of People's Commissars mandated that citizens turn in their firearms. This disarmament was followed by severe repercussions and mass atrocities under Stalin's regime, including the Great Purge, where millions were executed or sent to labor camps. Now, let's look at Cambodia. The Khmer Rouge regime, led by Pol Pot, disarmed the population before carrying out mass killings and atrocities during the Cambodian genocide in the late 1970s. The regime's policies led to the deaths of an estimated 1.7 million people. Now, let's take a look at China. After the Communist Party took control of China in 1949, Mao Zedong implemented strict gun control measures. This disarmament was followed by the Cultural Revolution, where his policies were responsible for a vast number of deaths, with estimates ranging from 40 to 80 million victims of starvation, persecution, prison labor, and mass executions. Finally, for the Ottoman Empire. During the Armenian genocide in 1915, the Ottoman government disarmed the Armenian population before carrying out mass deportations and killings. This disarmament of civilian weapons made it significantly easier for the government to carry out its genocidal policies. These examples from history show us that governments try to take away guns before doing atrocious things. Sounds a lot like what's going on right now, doesn't it? Anytime there's a shooting, it is automatically the gun's fault. Instead of trying to find the root cause of why these people are doing these things, the media takes the easy route and blames it all on guns. Instead of focusing on guns, which are definitely not the problem, we as a society need to focus on finding the real reason why people are doing these things, whether that be lack of mental health resources, poverty, or abuse as a child.
So, I don't really consider myself pro-gun control, but I don't necessarily think that that's for the same reasons that you are. Like, I just think it would be a logistical nightmare to actually get guns out of America. Like, how difficult would it actually be to... I mean, America has 5 times the amount of guns per capita than the second highest country with guns per capita, so it would just be a nightmare. The people just kind of created a culture of, if you're going to take my guns, I'm going to shoot you. So there are definitely certain circumstances where it has worked in, like, certain ways, like gun buyback programs, but then people still are allowed to have assault weapons. And in Canada, obviously Canada isn't, in my opinion, Canada isn't very nice now, but I just think about with the examples of, like, people, like, mass genocides that have happened. I just think that's, like, kind of extreme. Like, I think that honestly the motive behind people wanting gun control is rooted in good faith and wanting to control guns in society and not just letting mass shootings occur all the time, which is a huge problem in the United States. I don't think that you can say that mass shootings and mass killings aren't a huge problem in our country. But while I do think that the solution to that isn't necessarily just taking everyone's guns away, do you support, like, making sure that requiring an ID to buy a gun, and if you, like, have, like, mental problems, you can't buy a gun? Like, we should definitely not ban certain weapons, but just ban certain people from getting them.
Yeah, so background checks are kind of hard because while they do help in some instances, there's a lot of information that is stored about you long after you've consented to do that, and it's stored by the government. Yeah. But people can lie, right, on background checks. Like, a drug user can say that they haven't used drugs on a background check and still purchase a firearm.
Hunter Biden, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think there's something to be learned from Switzerland. I use this example a lot, and that's probably the main reason why I don't support gun control, is because Switzerland, while they do have like a fifth of the guns that we have, so not as many, but definitely like sort of an equivalent. I mean, the second most guns per capita. The gun culture in Switzerland is very widespread. They have like virtually no mass shootings. They have no school shootings. They have no mass killings. I saw a video of the president hanging out at like a gun club with no bodyguards, just shooting guns up in the Alps. We could never even consider doing that in the United States. So you can say, you can come at it a perspective of, oh, we should just better our society to be this, like, future focused place that's so amazing, but also, like, you have to live with your reality that we're not a nation of how many people live in Switzerland, like 9 million, 10, maybe even 20 million. We're a nation of like 340 million people, and to create that type of society would be pretty difficult at such a large scale. So, I mean, like, background checks, I think definitely should be a thing, and I think that the examples of like mass genocide, like, obviously that's probably not going to happen in the United States, just like killing all black people or something, like. And also with the example of Mexico, like, Mexico is a third world nation. You have to consider that Mexico is completely overrun by gangs, and we're not overrun by gangs. There's a huge difference between a third world nation, which basically, the president of the nation can't speak out against gangs because they're afraid they'll get killed. And the United States, where the president is, or should be, maybe July 13th, prove me wrong on this point, but like, should be like the most secure person in the world, where we don't have all those problems, you know?
Yeah, but when you look at non things like that, so where you've tried to implement it in the United States, like Chicago, extremely strict, some of the most strict gun control laws in the country, but they had the most murders in the country in 2022, and they've had like 2,400 shootings in the country in a place where it should be extremely hard to buy guns. So I think, so would you support?
I mean, you can also just like bring it in from other states. I mean, Chicago's right next to Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. So criminals are going to get guns,
so it's not
no matter what.
necessarily a nationwide ban.
Yeah, but criminals will get guns no matter what, right?
So we need to make it harder for everybody to get guns, not just criminals. I mean, that's like kind of the ideal society. If one city or one state makes it harder to get guns, obviously that's not going to solve the problem. If we have a nationwide thing where we say, look, you need a background check, you need this and you need that, then it's going to be a lot better.
So the criminals won't just lie on background checks?
I mean, like, you have to have like stuff in the legal system for background checks, right?
So would you support if it could happen right now, just because you said the main reason why you don't is logistical measures, would you support strict gun control laws if it would just instantly happen? Like,
if all assault rifles, I mean, I don't know, because we don't live in that type of world, so I've never really thought about that. That's kind of an interesting question. Probably, I mean...
Yeah, but isn't that a violation of the Second Amendment?
I mean, the Second Amendment, while you could say that the Founding Fathers, like with free speech in the First Amendment, like, you could say that they didn't know, like, Twitter's gonna exist, so can we censor Twitter or social media? No, but, like, the times have changed. I mean, everybody says this, but, like, the Founding Fathers when the Founding Fathers existed, massive machine guns didn't exist. Massive killing.
Well, yeah, but there's a reason why they chose to include the Second Amendment, so that the people, if the government turned into a tyranny, which all these examples show, that the people would be able to.
Do you really think there's going to be a huge genocide in America?
Like, of course not. But did the people in Russia, did all these other places think there was going to be a massive genocide or whatever?
I mean, Russia's
they
a pretty different example. Like, the Soviet Union is pretty
all
much...
of these.
Was Soviet Union not always, like, kind of a dystopian place?
How about the Ottoman Empire?
The Ottoman Empire, I mean, that's like the Turks. The Turks and the Armenians have been beefing for, like, thousands of years. And the Greeks...
Yeah, but did they...
fighting, like...
Okay, again, there's constant examples. How about the Chinese? The Cultural Revolution was coming. Did they think...
I mean,
no,
there's also, like,
people...
Mao Zedong and, like...
Exactly, yeah.
The East was, like, different and not really, like, led by Western example.
Well, yeah, but these people...
And it's not a modern-day society.
But if they knew these things were going to happen, they wouldn't let the government take their weapons. So everyone thinks that they're fine until they're not, right?
I mean, there's, like, the good guy with the gun myth that I think was, like... I think, like, The Daily Show or something did, like, a segment on that, like, years ago and said that the whole good guy with a gun, like, when you're actually in a situation with a weapon, aren't you, like... Wouldn't it be really hard to actually... Don't you think it would be kind of difficult if you go through 3 classes on how to defend a crowd and then you're actually the person who has to like shoot an attacker. Like,
well, that has happened before.
well, yeah, obviously it's like happened, but like there's, and then like when there are guns in the house, if you get robbed, there is a higher likelihood that you will die because they'll take your gun, and that's a real statistic. That's a real problem. So I don't think that we should ban AR-15s. I don't think that we should ban huge guns, but I do think that we should require background checks, and I do think that. I don't think that you should just be able to go to Walmart and like buy a gun. Like I think you should have to go to a gun store and buy a gun with your ID, and I don't think it should be as easy. And I think it should be nationwide, not just citywide. But I mean, I probably take a more conservative stance than a lot of liberals do on that. But that's what would you say anything else about that?
Not really. Yeah, I guess so. Your I guess position or stance is just that you wouldn't support gun control laws, really?
I mean, like, with your dilemma of if all guns could, like, instantly disappear, I haven't really thought about that because that's not a realistic scenario, but I would probably say no, just because also then people with regular guns would probably get outraged and it would cause riots everywhere, and people would just... And then also the Republicans would have like a 65-35 Senate majority for like 3 presidential terms.
Yeah. So I guess my last point would just be, instead of banning guns, we need to focus on improving mental health resources, improving all these things, because
I think as the society gets better. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, because as the saying goes, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Monologue. So, yeah, if we just focus on stopping the people from doing these things, because the criminals are going to commit crimes no matter what, and guns just happen to be the method that they use. So I think, again, just as a society, focusing on stopping these people from doing these things. So improving.
I think that's reasonable in certain ways. So our second to last topic is the TikTok ban and the Supreme Court being fast-tracked. So I did correctly, an absolute genius, I did correctly predict that this would be going to the Supreme Court, which will hear oral arguments from it on January 10th. I was reading this, I think it was this Axios article about it, and apparently only 32% of Americans support banning TikTok, which is absurd. Like that... I would think that it would be way more. Wouldn't you think that?
For sure.
But because even Donald Trump was trying to ban TikTok, and all the conservative guys are supposed to love that, but apparently not. So I did talk about this in our last episode, which was actually published, that this, I do support this, but honestly, with the Supreme Court 6-3 conservative majority, all these old guys, do I really think that they're going to support TikTok? Probably not. So, by January 19th, app stores are supposed to be ready to ban TikTok if the law is passed, which it most likely will. And so, what do you think will be the consequences of this? Because, do you think it'll really matter?
I mean, I think there's obviously going to be a lot of outrage at first and things like that. Yeah. But I don't think people really understand, what TikTok collects and all of that. So I think most Americans, that's probably why you get statistics like that, where the minority of Americans support it. Just because they don't understand, the full issue of it. But I think it'll be very interesting.
I mean, it'll probably just go to a new app that'll support it, but I mean, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
What else? What else do I have to think about it? It'll be really interesting to see how Donald Trump does in the midterms if TikTok gets banned, because people are gonna be mad, dude. People are not gonna be happy. Even if people just are able to migrate to another social media platform, people are going to be like, what the heck, dude, you took all my freedom. So I think Donald Trump could get nuked in the midterms, and that could end up being the reason that the second half of his term isn't as productive as he thought it would be. Don't you kind of think that?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't use TikTok, do you?
No.
Yeah, me neither. So, yeah, maybe that's a good thing. So, our final topic is effectively the collapse of the German government and what this really means for the rest of Western Europe. So, I kind of looked this up on the other day on the front page of The Economist, and I was kind of greeted by like an endless stream of articles talking about the nation's shortfalls. And on top of that, the government now seems to be collapsing. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has lost a confidence vote in Parliament. Olaf Scholz is a dude, all right? Or
Yeah.
Here, I think I can't even. Oh, okay, yeah, it's. Let me see. Okay, it's a dude. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure but he was the one that called for the confidence vote. I mean, nobody else can call for a confidence vote other than the chancellor in the country. But he basically had little choice to because of his inability to change the budget or to pass laws. And it comes at a time when France's government has collapsed and the UK has been littered with protests. So the entire continent has been faced with uncertainty surrounding migration, particularly, and also aid to Ukraine. And I kind of read into this more, and there are 4 parties competing with each other for control of the government. And basically, in order to get stuff done, bipartisanship is required to do anything. So I think that's like a really, really strong argument against the 2-party system in the United States. So like where parties, the government can just pass stuff with one side. They have to negotiate with the right and the left and the center and the libertarians. So, like it's a good argument against the bi-party system which we have in the U.S. And like right now, basically the entire continent, or especially the west of the continent, is in turmoil right now because of like I said, Ukraine and migration and Trump, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, and energy. So like I'm pretty sure you definitely know a lot, like you know about this, but Germany has like no nuclear power because Russia basically prevented them from getting it and launched this massive campaign to prevent them from getting it and rely on Russian gas. So now that they're not taking any Russian gas from Russia because of the Ukraine war, they're basically screwed and all their energy prices are skyrocketing. So I mean, it's a great argument for nuclear power, dude. We need nuclear power. Nuclear power is the best. Like why would you rely on Russia for power when you can have this alternative that's very efficient? I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. I've always talked about how much we need nuclear energy, not only in the U.S. but like Western Europe, so that we don't have as much reliance on Russia. And yeah, I mean, the whole aid to Ukraine thing is just like there have been so many protests in the country against this whole aid to Ukraine and against the ostracizing Russia. And I mean, I hope that this can teach Western European leaders that maybe you should get nuclear power, because Germany, their energy prices have just gone through the roof, and they're just basically begging Qatar now, please help us, please sell us your oil. And so like what do you think about that with all the
I think it's gonna be so interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, because you're right, basically all of Europe is just, or at least the western side, with like you're talking about France and all of that government collapsing. I think he just picked his new cabinet recently, but what will be the consequence of all of these things happening? Like, how will it affect? Will they lower their aid to Ukraine? Will they raise it? Like, how will it affect the world? Basically, just all of these things.
I mean, my official prediction, I don't really think that they'll learn much from this. The people of Germany are mad, but honestly, I think they'll just elect a new chancellor that'll just be they'll probably elect a chancellor, and they'll probably be able to run a functioning government. I'll predict that. But do I really think that Germany is going to make a huge switch towards nuclear power because of this? Like they obviously should. Probably not. Do I think they'll go against the grain and against NATO and against the EU by providing aid to Ukraine? By not providing aid to Ukraine? Probably not. And I think they'll suffer for it. I don't think that they can learn this stuff, because they really haven't over all this time. So that's really our last topic. Like I said, we'll probably start making this 2 days of the week instead of 1 day of the week. Thank you for listening to this. And do you have any final thoughts about that?
Not really. No. Yeah.
All right. Have a good Have a happy holidays and a good Christmas.
Yeah.